Thank you for viewing this Make Every Bite Count video about healthful holiday eating. During this video, we will discuss whole person health and wellness, stress and how it affects the body, plus some suggestions for making healthful choices over the holidays. I always like to begin by reminding everyone that whole person health and wellness is key. Health is defined as the absence of disease, where wellness is better defined as health plus overall balance. Every aspect of our lives, physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, professional, and even financial, are all tied together. They're actually tied together more closely than most of us even realize. They're intertwined in such a way that any and all effort directed at improving one aspect will improve all the other aspects as well. Likewise, if any component is neglected, it is at the detriment of all the other components as well. Disease can only exist, can only develop and grow where there is an imbalance. It's the holiday season, and with that comes stress. So what is stress and how does it affect the body? As mentioned previously, wellness is about balance. Stress is the body's response to any threat to that balance. Stressors may be physical, mental, emotional, resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. Stress is defined as a state of mental, emotional, or physical strain or tension resulting from those adverse or very demanding circumstances. What happens is the body goes into a fight or flight mode. So fight or flight is the body's response to the stressors. Essentially, the body is preparing for fight or flight so that any organ system that's needed to fight or flight is amped up, while any system that's not needed for fight or flight is diminished. During fight or flight response, the body's heart rate increases, the blood pressure increases, blood is shunted away from the core and toward the head and the extremities. Since we don't really need our gut during a fight or flight mechanism, we actually decrease nutrient absorption. The gut is slowed down, so nutrient absorption is decreased. Blood flow to the system is decreased, and enzyme and metabolic output are decreased. So enzyme activity, which decreases your ability to process your food. There are also changes in the gut-brain communication, whereas the gut and the brain communicates back and forth between the brain in the gut and the brain in the mind, if you will. There are two types of stress. There's acute stress and chronic stress. Acute stress is when the body IDs a threat and responds accordingly. So it releases hormones, adrenaline and cortisol and other chemicals, send messages to the heart, the lungs, the mind, and other organs to prepare, which means, as we said earlier, the heart and the lungs ramp up, muscles ramp up, but the GI tract and other organs like that will shut themselves down. There's an increase in heart rate, blood flow diverted to the muscles, pupils dilate, blood flow moves to the lungs, and there's an increase in energy release. This is a protection mechanism. Within a short period of time, the body will respond, and then the body will calm back down to its normal. Chronic stress is a little bit different. You get the same response. You get the same enzymes, the same hormones, the same chemicals released as in acute stress, except there's no release. There's the constant buildup ready for fight or flight, but over the long haul, because there's never a release, the organs and the chemicals remain over-secreted and lead to depletion. So instead of protecting the body, which is what acute stress does, chronic stress actually destroys the body. It weakens the immune system, and it leads to an increase in systemic inflammation. But remember that stress is neutral. It's our perception of the stress or the event that leads to our response. The way that stress impacts the body and the mind is how we perceive it and how we deal with it. It's not the stressor's fault. It's not traffic's fault. It's how we deal with the traffic. That's what leads to the positive or the negative benefits from the stress. Since stress affects every body system, the signs and symptoms of stress may manifest on multiple fronts. Physical manifestation of stiff and tense muscles, tremors, shakiness, restlessness, very common sleep problems, decreased sex drive, weight loss or weight gain, depending on if you're a stress eater. Behavioral would be decreased motivation, procrastination, fixation on the negative, brooding about stressful situations, withdrawal from social, clenching or grinding of the jaw or the teeth. Emotional is overwhelming sense of pressure or tension, nervousness, again, trouble relaxing, trouble sleeping, crying, poor concentration, depression, quick temper flashes, loss of sense of humor, or indecisiveness. One of the things that stress does to the body is it puts blinders on us, so we tend to be more focused at what's directly in front of us, the stressor itself, and all the other things that are naturally a part of our lives tend to fall to the side. Unmanaged stress is associated with poor health and can significantly impact the body's systems, every body system. So unmanaged stress, the top stressors listed in the U.S. are job pressure, money, health, relationships, poor nutrition, media overload, and sleep deprivation. 77% report regularly experiencing stress, and 73% report regularly experiencing psychological symptoms of stress. Overall, the decrease in immune function or immune system suppression leads to an increase in inflammation, and therefore every tissue in the body is affected by unmanaged stress. Stress directly affects the nervous system and the GI tract, leading to gas, bloating, cramping, poor digestion. It's also associated with an increased aging or adrenal depletion, where you're borrowing chemicals from estrogen stores, which decrease both youth and vitality. Remember that stress is your body's fight or flight mechanism. It's a response to a stressor. Essentially, the body is preparing for fight or flight so that any body system needed to fight or flight is going to be amped up, while other systems not needed for the fight or flight mechanism are diminished. There is also changes in the communication between the brain and the gut. Remember, the gut talks to the brain and the brain talks to the gut. Stress results in imbalances in the gut. It changes the motility or the movement. It changes hormone and enzyme pathways. It increases inflammation and decreases immunity. And there are mixed signals for hunger and satiety. When those imbalances between stress get tied into that loop between the gut and the brain, leading to a stressed gut and a stressed brain, you end up with the pain, cramping, bloating, poor digestion, and weight gain. You also end up with an increase in anxiety, increase in tension, and an increase in depression. Stress management involves mindfulness. One of the most powerful things you can do is meditate, pray, deep breathing, yoga, something that calms the mind and takes the mind off of the stressor. It also lets you get a more realistic grasp on what's going on. Positive visualization, happy thoughts, laughter, all those make huge inways in managing stress. Prebiotics and fermented foods, because the gut is directly affected by long-term stress, maintaining a good healthy probiotic bacteria in the gut is actually a good idea. Watch sugar intake. Stress eaters tend to eat carbohydrates as opposed to stress eating broccoli. If you know that you're a stress eater or tend to be a stress eater, notice your food choices in times of stress. Watch the sugar intake. Omega-3 fatty acids are both good for the brain as well as lowering inflammation. In long-term stress, we tend to deplete our B vitamin, so a B complex multivitamin is actually a really good idea. Sedentary lifestyle versus physical activity. When we are more stressed, we tend to be more sedentary versus when we're normally in our lifestyle more active. In the case of long-term stress, sedentary behavior actually leads to more stress, whereas one of the best ways to lower stress is to get up and move. Movement reduces stress. And also adequate sleep. Sleep has been shown over the past few years, and we will continue to see more of this, but sleep is continuing to be viewed as one of the most important parameters for overall health and wellness. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're not getting a good reset on your body, and therefore the body does tend to get depleted over time. So let's look at some healthful holiday eating. The goal is for you to be in control. Being in control requires mindfulness. So mindfulness is just paying attention. It's checking in. It's seeing what's going on and making a more informed decision. Being in control is key. I would encourage everyone to get rid of the word diet as it's associated with weight loss. Diet is actually everything that you eat and drink. So eliminate that word diet from a weight loss perspective and just focus on making balanced, healthful choices. There are going to be sweets. There are going to be things you don't normally eat during the rest of the year. It's the holidays. Focus on balance. If I am going to eat a little extra, I need to move a little more. If I'm going to drink something that's not necessarily low in calories, I want to make sure that I'm drinking plenty of water to balance that out. Staying hydrated is key because if you're dehydrated, it's often easy to confuse hunger and thirst, and we gravitate toward food where we need to make a better choice toward hydration. Regular physical activity, such as movement and stress management, just being in control keeps stress lower, because most people who acknowledge stress or the psychological components of stress will tell you that there's this component of feeling out of control and not having a decision to make. Be mindful of your overall intake. Remember, there's no one food that's perfect, but there's no one food that's going to put you under the table either. Your food, your beverages, your appetizers, meals, desserts, snacks, cocktails, and special holiday beverages. Just remember, balance is key. So if I have something that's a little higher in calories, if I balance it out with something that's lower in calories, it does mean at the end of the day, overall balance has been maintained. Again, being in control, focusing on staying hydrated. The amount of fluid that you drink, again, you should always have light-colored urine. I'm not telling you to always look at your urine, but that's actually not a bad idea. Thirst can be confused with hunger, and if we are thirsty but we're reaching for food, we're bringing in calories that we didn't need, and we're actually furthering our inability to make a balanced choice because we're confused with our thirst or our hunger, and it's harder to make a balanced decision. Movement is key, as well as managing emotions. Activate your support group. There's your spouse, your friend, family members, etc. Someone that you rely on, someone that you can count on, that you can discuss things with. Keep that person handy. Keep them at arm's length. Stay in touch with them over the holidays. Balance these emotions out by having someone to bounce them off of. Being in control also includes regular meals and snacks. Now, if you normally don't eat breakfast, I don't know that you should necessarily start eating breakfast over the holidays, but maintain your normal meal and snack pattern. Don't skip meals and don't go out hungry. If you're going out to a meeting, if you're going out to get together, if you're going out shopping, when you're out and you're hungry, you're going to find yourself more susceptible to things that are out there for you, and definitely less healthful snacks. Managed hunger means managed intake. Have healthful snacks on hand, have water on hand, keep things in your bag, keep things in the vehicle. Slow down, eat a little bit more slowly. You tend to get full faster with less volume. Emphasizing lower calorie and higher nutrient foods. Focus on your fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains. Lean protein, nuts, and seeds make great snacks. When you're at a party, when you're at a get-together, don't hang around the food. Avoid eating standing up. I believe that everything should go on a plate, even the smallest of items. Food that goes on a plate gives you more perspective of the actual amount that you're eating, as opposed to eating out of a bowl or off of a napkin. So remember, put things on a plate so you can keep it in perspective. Avoid grazing while you're cooking. Little nibbles add up. Have a glass of water or a balanced snack before you start cooking. Focus on vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, low-fat cheeses, etc. Stay hydrated again. Watch for hidden and ambush calories in fat, sugar, and sodium. Be careful of candies and other little bites. Serve sauces, dressings, etc. on the side. It gives you much more of control over that. Be mindful of empty calories in munchies and beverages, alcoholic beverages, beverages with syrups and flavorings and toppings, etc. The calories add up very quickly. I always push a balanced plate, which is the little diagram that you can see on the slide. By watching your portion sizes, you can actually control your intake. So moderation really is key. Try using smaller portions, use a smaller plate. Start out by dividing your plate in half. Make half of the plate vegetables and then divide the other half into a quarter starch and a quarter protein. Don't try to eliminate foods that are higher in calories, fat, and sugar. Avoid the all or nothing mindset, but rank the foods. When you walk up to the dessert table, rank the desserts. Rank them 1 to 3. 1s are the ones you like the most. The 3s are the ones you like the least. And focus only on the 1s. Apply the concept with this concept with appetizers and desserts as well. A pretty plate is a more satisfying plate. So contrast your colors, your flavors, your textures, your temperatures to make the plate more interesting and therefore more appetizing. Have healthful foods available. Plan the meals and the snacks around healthful foods. At least from my perspective, if I tell my family what I want them to bring, we end up with a more balanced meal versus me just letting them bring whatever they want, because we tend to be starched to death. Plan your meal based on that plate that we talked about. Make half the plate vegetables so you know that you have vegetables that are there and available. People will eat them. Emphasize the fruits, the veggies, the nuts, the seeds, the whole grains. Those are actually good fillers as well as good snack items. Ask guests to bring containers to take home items. Have low-calorie beverages available. Look for alternatives. Look for lower fat or leaner items. If you substitute a leaner cut of meat in a recipe, or if you substitute a lower fat dairy in a recipe, you actually do save yourself calories. Read your food labels and look for your sodium. Always start with whole foods. Prepare from the beginning. So rather than buying canned soup, make a white sauce. Add your flavoring in there. Replace high-fat dairy with lower-fat dairy, especially grass-fed options. Oil with applesauce and pureed plums in a lot of baked items. Whole eggs can be replaced with 2 egg whites or use an egg substitute. Refrigerate your stocks, your broths, your gravies, your sauces even to skim off the fat, and then use those in place of your more processed items. When you're looking for more healthful alternatives, any item that you can change the cooking method. For instance, if there's something that you normally fry, if you bake or broil that or even grill it, you usually end up with a tasty product with lower fat, lower calories. Roast the turkey unstuffed on a rack. The fat will drip away. Less bread and more vegetables in the stuffing or your dressing. Bake as a casserole. Make crustless desserts instead of high-fat crust. Top desserts with real fruit, fruit sauce, cocoa, shaved chocolate, or powdered sugar. Serve sparkling apple juice, apple cider, sparkling water, and free-flavored waters. Most important, I would say that tips and suggestions are good. Focus on balance. Make sure that if you're having a balanced plate, you're having part of that plate, half of the plate ideally, vegetables. Focus on balance. Focus on, if I'm having a meal, I need to make sure that I'm going to move. If I'm going to be moving, if I'm going to be doing things over the holidays, spending time with family and friends, I want to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep. If I'm finding myself hungry, make sure that I'm drinking enough fluid to make sure that the hunger is indeed a physical hunger and not just a dehydration or a thirst. But I think most important of all is enjoy yourself and have time with your family and your friends. Happy holidays, happy healthful new year. For participation credit, please contact Denise Holmes in HR with the completion code that we have on the last slide, 83774. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.